I don't care. Let's get her going.
Andy's only works these things when he wants.
All right.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silent reflection for our servicemen and women throughout the world, and also for those who have passed away in our community. Thank you. God bless you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Perry?
Here.
Mr. Rogan?
Here.
Mr. Evans?
Here.
Mr. Gahn?
Here.
Mr. Wexler?
Here. Dispense with reading of the minutes.
Third order, 3A special meeting agenda for non-uniform municipal pension board meeting held March 3, 2017.
Are there any comments? If not, received and filed.
3B minutes of the regular meeting of the Lackawanna County Land Bank held February 10, 2017.
Are there any comments? If not, received and filed. Do any council members have announcements at this time?
I have one quick announcement. Colts, the County Lackawanna Transit System, is going to be running free rides on Parade Day this year, as they do every year. There will be some detours set for Saturday due to the parade route. Those can be found online. But again, Colts will be running free bus rides during the parade, which is going to be, when's the parade again? This Saturday? Saturday the 11th.
Might be.
I have one as well. On Easter Sunday, Buona Pizza will be having a free Easter lunch from 12 to 2 p.m., and all are welcome to attend.
Just to follow up on Councilman Perry's remarks about the parade, just to repeat it again, the St. Patrick's Day Parade will be held this Saturday, March 11th at 11:45 a.m. The route begins at Mulberry Street on Wyoming Avenue, then taking a left onto Lackawanna Avenue to Jefferson Avenue, then onto Spruce, the reviewing stand near the corner of North Washington Avenue and Linden Street. Parking is available at all city garages for $5 for the day. That includes the marketplace at the Steamtown Garage. The Colts will be offering free bus transportation on all routes Parade Day. Please expect traffic delays if you need to travel through downtown. I would like to wish everyone a warm and happy St. Patrick's Day, but it doesn't seem like we're going to be very warm. One other announcement, Council will hold a work session tomorrow evening, Friday, March 10th at 4 p.m. in the Governor's Room in City Hall to discuss the proceeds of the Sewer Authority sale. And that meeting is open to the public.
Fourth order, citizens' participation.
Joan Hodawanitz.
Joan Hodawanitz, city resident and taxpayer. Just out of curiosity, did any of you have a chance to go to the book sale that Friends of the Scranton Public Library ran last week? Raise your hand. Gentlemen, for shame, hang your heads in shame. You know, the proceeds went to the children's programs for the library system. And just so you understand, Jim Lockwood, who just won a national award as reporter, he came twice, bought books and CDs. Commissioner Patrick O'Malley came, filled a bag of books. And not last but least, Commissioner Loring Cummings came. Now I want you all to think about that and hang your head in shame. But write this down. The next book sale is June 6th through the 11th, and you should try to redeem yourselves. Okay, 243 days till November 7th, the general election, 113 days to June 30th, the deadline for the 2016 audit. I was one of the few citizens that attended the PEL hearing on Tuesday, March 7th, on Scranton's financial condition. And I was really embarrassed because I think there were 3 of you councilmen were there. Wayne, you were there, Bill, you were there, and Joe, you were there, which I thought was wonderful. But there were only, 4 citizens, Marie, myself, Tom Lombarski, and Dave Dobson, I think. And I just couldn't understand. It was 6:30 at night, so everybody was out at work. It was after happy hour. So I couldn't understand why there wasn't a better citizen turnout. You know, a lot of citizens will, give you their 2 cents on what's wrong with Scranton, but, they won't take the time to come and see what's going on there. They had an opportunity to make comments, which we cannot do tomorrow when you have your work session, what's going to happen to the proceeds from the sewer authority's sale, which is going to be, 4 p.m. tomorrow afternoon in the governor's room. And I agree with Mr. Gahn, who mentioned in caucus tonight that the acoustics in that room is terrible. So you'll excuse me, I'm a little old lady. I'm old enough for Medicare, and I'm going to stand up and I'm going to be sticking my head right in the middle of the table because I'm going to hear what people have to say. And I don't care who gets offended among your guests. I think, the one thing that this administration falls short of is transparency and full disclosure. And if I have to stand up and approach the table to hear, I'm going to do it. I saw articles in the Times Tribune this week and an editorial about the 9 municipalities in Lackawanna County that got together to decide what they want to do about stormwater management and how they may cooperate and work together to reduce costs. And the one municipality that I didn't see mentioned was Scranton. Have you heard anything from the administration why Scranton didn't try to get into that effort? I think that was a boat missed. That was an opportunity missed. I understand that the Arcata study is in progress, but that should not have precluded the administration from sending somebody there, even just to sit as a bug on the wall. I could not believe that you had Dixon City and Jessup and all these other places and no Scranton. And what's the one major shortfall on the sale of the sewer authority? No one else is the stormwater costs. And, to have passed up that opportunity, I think we shot ourselves in the foot once again. Speaking of shooting ourselves in the foot, where's the RFP for the third-party administrator for the pension plans? The one that was in the pipeline? You
It's
remember
still
that pipeline?
Yes, it's still in
Is
that.
that like Roto-Rooter?
It's in the pipeline.
It's in the pipeline.
It's
You
in
know,
the
the
pipeline.
Army has a term, BOHICA. You know what BOHICA stands for? Bend over. Here it comes again. BOHICA. And speaking of pensions, why haven't we seen anything about ordinances for pension reform, like, having people on disability, having their disabilities re-verified, or what are you going to do about somebody that gets hired doing the same job elsewhere, getting a disability pension?
yes.
Whatever happened to that?
That's going to be a lively discussion as we move forward.
Well, congratulations to Councilman Gahn. I love Granicus, the best thing you ever did. Now, if you could just get IT to put the January controller's report on the controller's webpage, I'll be happy. Thank you.
Lenny Cerebro?
Lenny Cerebro, Scranton residents. Did anybody review the Fire Stick recording I gave last week?
I did not know.
I handed it to her, hoping you'd look at a 5-minute video of the flooding in progress that we deal with in Kaiser Valley there. You know, I truly considered coming here and getting down on my knees and begging for somebody to help us with the flooding problem. Now, here I'm going to talk about the same thing I did last week. In the February 25th storm that we had, a 12-inch water drainage pipe right in front of my property in the street, right at the curb, ruptured, and the water was gushing up about 4 feet, was coming right into my yard on my property, washed away the topsoil, opened up about a 6 to 8 inch hole going directly into my cellar. I'm repeating what I said last week, that the cellar flooded. I called DPW. They came out, looked at it, confirmed a broken drainage pipe, and they put in a request to the fire department to come and pump out my cellar, because at the time of the cellar filling up, the pump I have, because it's a common problem for flooding in that area, it stopped working. In the middle of that storm, I had to run out to get another pump. Now, fire company never came, nobody called. Here it is 2 weeks later, and that broken pipe, the ground washed away, so you can visually see the broken pipe. Nobody has come out. Next time it rains, it's gonna be the same scenario. My cellar's gonna get flooded. I had to fill that hole with modified to seal the hole, but the water's gonna find another way into my basement. So there's that hole right there. I would consider it a dangerous situation. Nobody has come out to do anything about it. I had to get a steel plate myself to put over the hole. I got a safety cone to put it there. I have been on the phone almost every day calling DPW since that time, what they're gonna do about it, if they can fix the problem. You know, nobody returns my phone call. I feel like I'm blacklisted. Now that nothing is ever getting done about the 36-inch pipe that's plugged solid or about 2/3 of the way with debris, now I'm calling about something else. I feel like they have the call identification that, oh, it's Lenny Cerebro again. I've left messages with DPW various times during the day. Like I said, every other day I called the mayor's office. I left a message with the director, a detailed message of this problem. Now it's another problem. I'm not even worried about the big drain pipe, but oh my God, next time it rains, what do I have to do to get somebody to come out? Now, I feel like I'm getting blacklisted because I don't mean to talk bad about DPW, but all I'm doing is stating my issue. I know that you people know I don't come here and be flipping out, you know, and I leave the messages with DPW, you know, about the problem in a very civil way, you know, like I normally talk, but nothing is getting done. So, and see, you don't even want to look at that video that shows the terrible flooding that's going on at that time. I just feel like I'm blacklisted because instead of keeping my mouth shut, I just can't sit there and take it all. And I spoke about the garbage truck that comes through. Now it's going on not just mine, but two other people's property, putting deep ruts because the road is washed out from the flooding. And I don't mean to talk bad about the garbage truck driver, but he tries to avoid those deep ruts and comes on our lawns and really destroying the lawns. See, I spoke about that last week too. Nothing. I mean, what do you guys do? Do you do anything? This has been since last summer. I've been pleading my case. I've had all the neighbors here. We had a caucus. See, nothing, absolutely nothing is being done. Thank you.
Mr. Strebe. We have been in contact with DPW. We're trying to make it work. Personally, we don't do that. That is the responsibility of Director Gallagher and the administration. All we can do is put pressure on them, and that's what we're doing. Les Spindler?
Evening, Council. Les Spindler, city resident, homeowner, taxpayer. Councilman Perry, I want to thank you for something else again now. I'm always thanking you. We got the left turn lane in Main Avenue and Orm Street.
Oh, yeah.
And now if we could only get it at the corner of North Main and Jackson Street, going north.
Baby steps. We're getting
It used to be there now. After they paved it, it's not.
We still need Epernetti's to be fixed too.
Yeah,
So we didn't
that's
forget
another.
about that.
People keep coming out of there the wrong way. 2 weeks ago, I spoke here about Princeton University losing their nonprofit status, and the city should look into that. Did council look into that?
I read the article.
Yeah. But
I read it, and again, it's a legal opinion whether we could do something like that or not in Pennsylvania. I think it's definitely worth exploring.
that's what I said. At least look into it. It doesn't hurt to look into it. The precedent was set there.
Mr. Spindler, I wasn't here 2 weeks ago. Can you tell me what that was about? If you have a minute.
The town of Princeton, New Jersey sued Princeton University
Okay.
to have their nonprofit status taken away, and they won.
Oh, wow, okay.
That was brought to my attention. I didn't see it, but there was, and Councilman Rogan is aware of it also.
There's an article. I could send it to you.
I think it should, definitely something should be looked into, because a lot of us have been complaining about the nonprofits not giving their fair share for years and years and years. And like I said, the university's taking away tax-paying properties, and it's got to stop. They have to pay more than they're paying. So they're giving us nothing compared to what they should be. Okay. For quite a while now, the Green Ridge residents are coming here complaining about the properties caving in and flooding and this and that. And I feel bad for the Youngs. But this didn't happen overnight. As the speaker said last week, this has been going on for 30 years. And even the Youngs attorney said it's been going on for 30 years. Where were these people before when Chris Doherty was in office? Why weren't they complaining then? He was in office 12 out of those 30 years. And I was here all those years. Now one person came and complained. God forbid they come and complain about Chris Doherty. They would have been exiled out of Green Ridge probably. And the Seitzingers are always here complaining. And oh, I forgot, they worked for him, so they couldn't complain. But I don't have any pity on them. They just started coming out of the woodwork now. If it's been going on for 30 years, they should have been here the 12 years Chris Doherty was in office. This stuff didn't happen overnight. Lastly, there's an article about the double pensions last week in the paper, that these people aren't going to get it anymore. And that's another thing. These people should go after Chris Doherty, not the city. It was in the paper. He's the one that offered the incentive for double pensions. And it was wrong. He never should have done that. He didn't have the right to offer them double pensions. So these people should go after ex-Mayor Doherty, the person that killed this city. But nobody listened to us, though. We're coming here all those years saying that he's going to do that. And they called us the Legion of Doom because we always talked against the King Chris. But everything we said was true. Our taxes got raised. The fire department won a big settlement. That's killing the city. Nobody wants to listen. Anyway, that's all I have tonight. I hope everybody has a happy St. Patrick's Day.
Thank you. Bob Bolus?
Evening, Council. Bob Bolus, Scranton. It's nice to see young people showing up here and get an understanding of what government's all about, good and bad. You guys will get an education being here, believe me. It's your future we're dealing with. You know, I was in here a long time ago. I came in, if you'll recall, Mr. Wexler, I was asked by Albert and Elaine Young to address their issues, and he told me I couldn't speak for them. I had to shut up basically and let them talk, which were very uncomfortable. It was about the water problem with Meadowbrook Creek disaster, the issues they had then, and then you hear this gentleman here today coming in here talking. Now you people sit here and say it's up to the administration. Did you ever think of holding the administration hostage by not passing his legislation and doing his bidding so that these people get the service they desire? That's what leadership's about. Not sit here and push the football around. These people here that I'm speaking about them, they've never been taken care of. It's been going on for 20 years. And we did nothing. But you guys could sit here and sign off on millions and millions of dollars for legal fees, to lawyers for the sewer authority, Conboy for the parking garage, $1.5 million. And you sign off all this stuff, and then you act like you don't know what the heck is going on. What's going on with the parking garage? You gave him $4.5 million, almost $7 million for parking spaces so the people could park. Is it my understanding that Basiliga is now charging $10 a car for the St. Patrick's Day parade for people to park there? Do you have any idea of that? Is that going to be permitted? Those are our parking spaces we just paid millions of dollars for. And I better not see a sign telling anybody that's going to pay $10 on that mall to park there. And you people should make sure that doesn't happen, because that's our money that should be refunded back to us if he's abusing the gift you people gave him. And I mean, it's a gift. It was just the most ludicrous deal I ever saw in this city. And these are the issues I came here for. I came here for a lot of other reasons. And what bothers me, why women? We had this all about women yesterday. Why young women? Women like this don't run for seats there. Janet Evans set some precedent. Why they don't run for mayor in the city of Scranton or other boroughs? They have the leadership skills. Probably some of them have more damn common sense than most of us, and look at things and can get things done. Just remember, when you were a kid, it was see your mother, not your father, who took over and did something. So I'm reaching out to all women. Start getting involved here. Don't sit home. Come here and get involved. You could do a better job than a lot of people here. You know, I don't want to see backdoor deals here again in the back room. This is what it's here. We got plenty of room here for people to talk. Mr. Wexler, you want to have meetings privately, and then you're going to come out and you're going to tell us what you think we should hear, or what we know, or what you remember. I don't want to hear from you. I don't want to hear from any council member that sits in a backdoor meeting. We want you right here. That's where you belong. That's where the mayor belongs. He sat on this council. He belongs here. But he's not doing his job. When you're done with the money, put $3.5 million back in the Gulfmore's money that was taken, that was put there. And the interest was to be used for parks and recreation. We won't have empty swimming pools. We won't have a park in Destray. And you'll always have the cushion of $3.5 million and the interest being used. That's common sense. That's what you owe the people. I got involved here because the zoning board had a meeting here over the containers at my house. I had people saying from East Mountain Neighborhood Association, which you and I were used to be involved in, if you recall that. And I walked away from them because I couldn't stand them then, and now I can't even stand them more. And they came in here with Hinton saying my containers are a threat or an issue. I'm 700 feet away. They don't bother anybody. But we're playing a stupid game again. Then we're going to go to court, and we're going to spend money, and we're going to go on. To see this here going on just turned my stomach. I watched today at Linda Kay's restaurant. Contractor was working there. He takes a couple minutes, he's trying to do some work there. They come out and said he can't do it because it wasn't residential work. If you have 2 apartments, it's okay to do residential. If you work on a 3rd one, you're considered commercial. That's what's going on here in the city of Scranton. It's a travesty. Total mismanagement, total confusion. And that's one of the things that bother me. We're never going to get out of distress. In 3 years, you'll squander every bloody penny here because you spend millions. That's the reason that I've seen what Mr. Wexler has done, hammer people out, disrespect people.
Thank you, Mr. Bowles.
And you could do it. No,
Thank
I'm
you,
not
Mr.
finished.
Bowles.
I'm going to finish one more thing here, and
No.
I don't want you to ever thank me
The
for
1
nothing.
minute is to finish
No,
one
Mr.
thought. Now you're
Wexler,
gonna start another
understand
thought.
something. It's reasons because
Thank
of
you.
you, people like you, and that I elected to run for mayor again in this city of
Thank you,
Scranton.
Mr. Bowles.
Because of anything needs to be cleaned up, and the stench of mismanagement that you people have signed off on needs to be addressed, and addressed now, and you need to be held accountable more than anybody
Thank you,
else.
Mr. Bowles.
Don't thank me, because you're gonna regret this. Don't ever thank me for nothing, because if it's the last thing I do, it'll be to see you on this seat again.
Thank you, Mr. Bowles. Ron Elman?
That's another hard act to follow. Do you gentlemen know that the city gets $175 for every car towed in? Yeah. Didn't know it? Where's this money going? You know how many cars are towed in daily? Can you imagine how many people that need transportation, let's just say lower income people, don't have the funds to pay $175 to the city, then pay a toll bill, no matter what the reason is. And the storage, if they were in jail or the hospital or whatever, there are dozens of cars lost every week because of these expenses. You people have just figured out how to suck the city dry every which way you can. But here, I've listened to a man said he'd get on his hands and knees pleading for help. You can give $500,000 again to downtown, but you can't fix our curbs. You can't fix this. You just don't do nothing like you should, except worry about that bunch of people downtown. That's all we hear about. This isn't Bozzoni's money. It's the city's, for God's sake. He has no business without it going before council or someplace saying we're going to give $500,000 more to downtown. Well, before I explode, I'll let it go. I didn't show up last week because I didn't want to confront that Charlotte Lewis about making this a sanctuary city. I can't, where do these people come from? And you, Tim Perry, you advocated this in the paper. Who do you think comes to a sanctuary city?
No, I didn't. I didn't
No, you
advocate
think
it.
an architect's going to come, or a brain surgeon? Criminals come. That's who needs sanctuary. That's all we need around here.
Well, I didn't advocate it.
I read the
not.
article in the paper. You advocated it. You didn't see nothing wrong in it.
I didn't know enough about it.
Can you imagine the city? We're already like Hazleton with problems. I just can't imagine somebody thinking like this at this day and time. We hear every day about things in Chicago, problems, Philadelphia, San Francisco. Their crime is rampant. I remember that letter you wrote me, how things are going to change voting for you. Boy, that was a mistake. That's one of the
I'm
biggest
sorry you
mistakes
feel that
I
way.
ever made. That's why I threw that letter down right there. All those promises. Well, to change the subject again, I was reading about the 3 bridges that might be repaired. I probably won't live long enough to see that. You know, what they need to do is fire that Mr. Mays from PennDOT with his circles. I've been lost going to the airport. I've never seen something so ridiculous as having to drive around and figure out how to get there. And they ought to hire the Naples. They'd probably get it done in a couple of days and save tens of millions of dollars. PennDOT, you know who works for PennDOT? People that aren't good enough to work for engineering companies. That's why PennDOT is in such disarray continuously. And I don't care who likes it and who doesn't. You know, what we have here is a city that is so badly mismanaged. It's running out of control. And here we have an administration that thinks we're good, that we're well off. We got 3 men running this city. Yeah. We got Henry Hermosa that works for the nonprofits. We got Gerald Cross from Pell. And we got Mr. Bozzoni from Mr. Courtright. You realize these 3, none of them were elected. Not a one of them lives in the city and pays taxes and house taxes and school taxes, but they have all the power over us. This has gone too far. We need a new council, and we need a new city administration starting with the mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hillman. Thank you. John Foley?
John Foley, Scranton, property owner. First, let me apologize because I have not been here before. I probably should have been here a month ago, but we winter in Florida. However, I was able to follow the events of Scranton, specifically with respect to the sale of the sewer plant. And it's somewhat disturbing because it seems that the biggest focus is on the professional fees. Well, I can't tell you whether those professional fees are reasonable or not. I will tell you some of the people, like the Huron Consulting Group, was in the same line of business that I was in. So I'm familiar with them. The lawyers, those fees didn't shock me either. But what did shock me was the $12 million that nobody knows what happened. And I say that because all you've received so far is an explanation. Those explanations I found to be wholly inadequate. Let me explain to you. There's $12 million short of cash. There was a cash amount established at the beginning of the transaction, and at the end, there was about $12 million short. What are the things that impact cash? Not a lot. Let's say loss from operations, that's possible. But I looked at the operations for the sewer authority for the last 3 years, ended December 31st, 2015, and frankly, they had profitable operations. So I know, unless something drastically changed in 2016, that wasn't it. I looked at the capital expenditures, including those under the consent decree. The amounts look reasonable from year to year. One minor blimp, but that blimp was caused by something unusual, but you borrowed the money, they borrowed the money to do that. So I now at a loss. Where could the money have gone? It doesn't appear that it was from operations, but it might be. But if it did, something happened. Something that did not happen in the previous 3 years. It could be significant operating expenses, maybe maintenance expenses, and maybe those expenses were to improve the sewer plant. Maybe there are capital expenditures. Maybe they relate to the plant itself. Maybe some repairs, some modernization, other than what was routinely being done year after year. Now, then comes the question, why did they do it? If those are the issues, but you're not going to be able to find out unless you start digging. Now, I equated, if it turns out that a lot of money was spent, in that $12 million, for maintenance that was not done in the past to improve the plant, or for capital expenditures, I would equate it to no different than Consul entering into an agreement to sell your house. But at some point in the future, you and the arm's length buyer establish the price. But in the interim, between the day you entered into your agreement and the closing, either you, on a benevolent basis, or at the insistence of the buyer, that you renovate your kitchen and your bathroom without an increase in the sales price. It doesn't seem right. That's just not good, sound business. Now, Consul has done a couple of good things, and the first was getting something in writing. You asked a couple of questions, and I love people to do things in writing. Paper has always been my friend. I used to do a lot of litigation defense work for law firms, none locally, across the United States. I did work for the Department of Justice in pursuing people that defrauded the government. So paper has always been my friend. You got it first. Now here's what I believe the key is. You want to find out what happened? You need to take a look at the records, all of them, not just the financial records, but all the records. I've heard a whole variety of things. I've heard that, well, you sent the letters, you got written request, I hear special counsel, and attorney-client privilege. I will tell you in my experience, particularly doing work for and against the DOJ, one of the things that worked really well for them was asking those people who said they did nothing wrong, in the spirit of transparency, to ask them to waive attorney-client privilege. So what I would urge counsel to do is send a demand to the mayor, who should also send a demand to the Sewer Authority Board, and frankly, is politically controlled, asking to waive attorney-client privilege. I believe you need to bring somebody in from the outside. There's too much collegiality among the Lackawanna Bar. You need to bring in an outside consultant and a lawyer to find out what happened to $12 million. And frankly, I don't view it as my $12 million. I view that $12 million as money that could have been put into the union pension plan.
Thank you, Mr. Foley. Unfortunately, your time is up. Thank you. Anyone else?
Andy Sprague, says Scranton, fellow Scrantonian. Well, you know I've been calling for an investigation of this whole deal for quite a while, not only with the sewer authority, but the parking authority. And the parking authority is way worse than the sewer deal. We lost millions of dollars with the parking. Not only did we take out a loan for $30 million, we're paying almost the same price back to what we would have had if we bought the place in the first place, which we should have done. How you can say that a person that doesn't put a penny in it, but it's a good old Joe, you're going to give him a lease. You don't charge him for the lease. You give it to him because you're a good friend, and he's going to do things for you. How dumb do you think we are? The guy didn't put a penny into the deal. you gave him a lease worth $28 million because you like him. And then he turns around and hires another company to run it. Now, you never said whether that company that's running it is a profit or a not-profit. I would assume it's a profit, because if it's a not-profit, what good would it be to you? Not only did we do that, then we turned around and gave a garage for $1, which was nothing wrong with the annex. Maybe the globe part was a little run down, but the annex certainly wasn't. It wasn't condemned. It was bringing in, I think they said, around $300,000 a year. But you thought that was worthless. You all thought it was worthless. Then you turned around and gave $4.1 million. The lease space in his garage, knowing that you're tearing down space in your garage. Did that make sense? No. I called for an investigation. I wish there was more lawyers that would come forward and demand an investigation. We spent more money on these, what you call selling of assets, renting of assets, than it would be if we kept the assets. It's going to cost us more than if we kept the assets. But I don't know how you didn't see that. You're looking at figures. I know they spent $4.1 million here, another $1.2 million here for lawyer fees, and bond fees, and this fees, and that fees. Somebody made out real good. Did the citizens of Scranton make out real good? No. It's just too bad they don't realize what was done and how it was done and for whose benefit it was done, but not for the citizens. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Good evening, Council. You guys got kind of white when that guy was talking about investigations. I think he took you off, unhinged you a little bit. You know, I'd like to say this, that, you know, St. Patty's Day is coming, and I think that people really need to think about that for a minute, because I think Scranton's a lot like Ireland, believe it or not. Before they left there, they had the lace curtain Irish and the shanty Irish. Well, the lace curtain Irish are running the city. And the rest of the Irish, which is the rest of us, whether you're Irish or not, well, you're the shanty Irish. And the lace curtain Irish just keeping abusing the shanty Irish, because what are they? Just stuff to be walked all over. I mean, driving to council today was almost ridiculous. I'm just sorry that I haven't been driving my Ford Ranger truck, because it would have did a much better job of getting here, considering the beating the suspension took to get here, and we didn't have a hard winter. But the things that take place in the city are beyond corrupt. They really are. Two councilmen meeting, either with the solicitor or the, whatever you want to call, you know, the gentleman running the sewer authority now, whatever title you want to give him, holding meetings and talking to other people. It only skirts the sunshine laws. It's all things that the public should know. But the people we elect, they have no concern for the people they represent, because they really don't represent them. And it's gone on for a long time. And we sit here and we watch certain council members smile about the silliness that's taking place here. And I don't find it disrespectful, because some people are ignorant and some people don't understand what getting elected to a public office should mean. Because I believe a lot of people who get elected think it's pay-to-play time. And with a lot of decisions that have been made in this city, I had a conversation with Mr. Cross, the head of the PEL, whatever title you want to give him. I called him on a Sunday, and he must have had an ID on his phone, and he called me back. And he told me the city could have filed bankruptcy. He told me the year and everything. He said, that's over. So the people that were elected to represent us could have took the city that way, but they didn't. And all the borrowing and all the selling of public assets and public parks, I mean, what would the city do if the federal government came in here and said, you sold this outside sports complex and it was illegal because it was built with Section 70 funds and we want the money? And what would this council do if what this gentleman standing here actually was speaking about came true, and the feds came in and wanted to start talking to you gentlemen and the mayor and various other formerly elected representatives of the people, and the sale and the mismanagement of our assets? What would you say to that? Because I know you wouldn't be that ignorant to them, because somebody would sit you down in a chair and tell you, shut up and listen, and we're going to talk to you, and then you're going to talk back to us, and then we're going to determine what we're going to do with you. And this is the crime that we think you've committed, and we may have to take you to court, but how would you like to go to jail? And then I think you'd all sing a different tune, because your suits would be all different. Because it's obvious from what I've seen coming here for almost at least 25 years, I don't keep track of the time, but nothing good has come here. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. There's nothing that you can say that's taken place in this city in the last 25 years that was good for the residents. And I can judge that by my own children who won't live in this city, and by all the children I grew up with who left and never came back. And then the couple of us that stayed here and thought we'd make a living, look, I have no complaints. I paid almost $70 in tax just to live in this city, so multiply that and see the kind of money I earn. It's amazing, and I could double that, but I won't because I live here. And I can understand the pathetic people we elect to represent us, because the people in this city don't understand what good representation is. It's all about who you know, and don't worry, he's our friend, she's our friend, and they're going to take care of us. And you can imagine what you can do with a suit on. Look at yourself in the mirror someday, but also look at this city and see what it looks like, and smile about it. Because look, the sewer deal was terrible, the parking garage deal was terrible, the sale of our assets was terrible, the tax increases are terrible, our roads are terrible. Think of something nice, though. Thank you.
Thank you.
Marie Schumacher. I want to thank Mr. Gahn for ferreting out Granicus. I come close to saying it was worth the wait. It would have been nice to have it a long time ago and saved a lot of time and energy and quarters, but it is good that it is finally here and it's working, and I hope it will continue to work. Now, first, I'd like to question why tomorrow's working session is being held in the governor's room instead of here in council chambers. Not only are the acoustics terrible in the governor's room, but holding this important meeting in council chambers would allow for the session to be available on ECTV for those unable to attend the meeting. This is your chambers. I don't know why you're not meeting in here. And I will be shoulder to shoulder with Joan, leaning into here. It's that bad, especially, and I'm sure the fans will be put on so that it further causes hearing problems. Okay, next, I would like to say I was very happy to read in the paper this morning that Judge Gibbons overruled the city's preliminary objections to the lawsuits filed by the Young and Kennedy families. I trust this case will proceed expeditiously, and the properties will be returned to their original condition as promised by the Scranton Sewer Authority at the meeting held at Lackawanna College on the issue of property rights. It's the right thing to do. I congratulate and thank Judge Gibbons for what he's doing. I don't like that the city has to spend the money, but if the city probably would have done this sometime, in the last 40 years that he's been complaining, it probably wouldn't cost as much as it's going to cost now. So I will be not happy, but at least my tax money will be going to something right. And this poor gentleman, Mr. Cerebro, and I don't know what happened to that poor little widow lady that was also getting flooded every time he got flooded, and it's just plain not right. Either is 307 right. I mean, taking down horses doesn't fix anything. I would urge you to go up and walk along that shoulder where the drop-off, where the white line at the end again is, after 2 years of having been filled in, is crumbled away, and measure what it is if you go off there with your tires. It just plain isn't right, and it's going to be a big bill to fix, and I hope that we hear tomorrow from how much is going to be set aside. Although I'm not really a fan of escrow accounts because it's pick, and soon it's all gone. Just like that, $500,000 there. I think Mr. Rogan had something last week, $108,000 for a project in West Scranton.
That was for the flooding situation.
Yeah, I understand. But there are other flooding situations. I think they all need to be looked at, and we need to know what they all are. And we need to cover them. All of those fees that were paid in that you are treating as a windfall wasn't a windfall at all, guys. That was our money, and we're going to have to pay it again because now we have to pay it to PAWC. The double pension meeting on last Friday. When, if ever, will we get to the bottom of what really happened? What was offered to those people? I mean,
Our subpoena is still tied up in the courts, so we're waiting to get a determination on that regarding getting the state police records. Hopefully we get them.
Yeah, I think that is just on how it happened. The testimony on what they were offered, I think that's all part of the court case of what they were offered, and I'm sure those people made that case during their testimony.
Well, I have no way of knowing that, but I would like to know. I mean, I've heard everything from it was for a couple of years till they reached a certain date. But even, it was hard listening to some of those people, and I didn't get here at the very beginning. But what also I found was less than classy was the fact that the mayor sent his proxy. It was the city solicitor or the HR person, I'm not sure. I guess it was the HR person. Mr. Wexler, you sent Lori. She had to vote against those people who were here. And Roseanne Novembrino, our controller, was not here. She had a proxy. I think it would do you all good once in a while to come and sit in on those meetings. And I have lots more, but I will have to let it go for another week. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening, Council. Dave Dobson, resident. A few weeks back, we had some people in talking on law enforcement issues, and last Wednesday night, Marty Flynn threw a seminar over at the Hilton. They had free sodas and stuff, and that wasn't the reason I went. It's PA, it was with the Vice Governor, PA Board of Pardons Guide. And if you can get in touch with Marty Flynn and get some of these pamphlets, you could familiarize yourself with what it takes and how long an arrest record can follow you around and dog you into an early grave, because it just goes on and on. What this book says is that if you're arrested for any significant crime, it will follow you till you're 70 years old. Then, if you haven't been arrested for 10 years, you can get an instant pardon. Otherwise, file the paperwork, run back and forth to Harrisburg, go on year after year, 3 years, you might get a hearing, and maybe you don't, because they only give a couple hundred away a year. So it's something you want to consider. Yesterday I saw some rather stern faces over our Auditor General's comments on legalizing wacky-backy. But the point being that we really want to consider what we're condemning somebody to before we arrest them and see if there's an alternative. And also consider the fact that if you do get a concentration of people with arrest records and so forth, and this was absolutely free, you went over to Hilton and it wasn't a whining and dining, but it was a very interesting conference. And if you can get in touch with Marty Flynn, maybe we'll be lucky if they left a book of these around, or a box of books, these little pamphlets. And next summer, every summer for the last 7 years or 8 years, I attended the People's Law School. It's thrown free by the Bar Association. It was at the mall last year. And it has different things of interest. And you can also talk to people from the DA's office. They have a crime night and an elderly law night, which I would think would be very helpful to somebody in a council position. So enough said on that for now. Flooding. Please do what you can to help these people. They're getting kind of hyper-pitched here. And Mr. Cerebro would like his video back. He told me to mention that quick. And pension investments. Now, I'm not against using the money for the pension. I want the money used for the pension. I want right to be done by the employees of the city and for retirees. We do need some reforms, but my major concern is that it'll be handed out to Wall Street and the sharks will just jump on that hunk of meat and devour it in a matter of months or years, and we'll be even worse off than ever. 5F, we have a thing there about recycling and coordination. Well, we haven't had any progress report. And I don't want to be critical. I don't know what the people are up to, but I'd be willing to listen to the progress report. And my point is that I don't see a lot of progress. I see large cardboard boxes out in front of behind houses, along the garbage can and stuff like that. So I'd really like to see some kind of progress or something get started or some kind of program, because I'm sure a good portion of that $300 a year is just going to haul off wet cardboard, and that's not right. Thank you and have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Anyone else?
Fifth order, 5A motions.
Mr. Perry?
Thank you. Where to start today? Let's start with the Sanctuary City. That was brought up. I don't know how else to go on the record by saying I'm against being a sanctuary city. When I was interviewed weeks ago by the Scranton Times, I just didn't know enough about it, one way or the other. So I didn't want to give a straight yes answer or no. I mean, sometimes it's okay to say I don't know. And that's basically what I did. But after my research, I don't think you're going to find anybody that is more consumed with public safety than I am. It's my topmost, what I believe is the government's topmost function that they have to their individuals, to their taxpayers, to the people that visit the city, to the people that visit this country, is safe. If you're not safe when you're here, you're not going to want to be here. And let me tell you, if you think for 1 second that we're going to give safe harbor to somebody without the ability to extradite them, there's no way. that you go somewhere else. This is not that type of city that I want. So that's my answer for a sanctuary city. Not to mention there's federal funding that we would lose, which makes no sense as well. Let me just get that out of the way on the record. Also, what else do we have? Oh, Lenny, I feel for you. It's not enough. It's not an answer you want to hear. But when I tell you that every day I'm working on something, making a phone call, sending out letters, have Miss Reed contact people. If I knew how to fix the problem myself, I would put gloves on and do it. I don't. But it's not done, but it's not for a lack of trying by myself. And anytime I ask for help from any of my councilmen, they are more than happy to help me push. But we're pushing as hard as we could. I do apologize, it's not done yet. But I don't want you to think that it's any indication that somehow, some way that the people up here don't care. Because I know we do. And it hurts. We feel it. When you feel pain, we feel pain. And I just wish there was absolutely more we could do for you. But that doesn't mean we're going to stop. I'll keep making my phone calls. As you do, you're hitting the same road as I am, which doesn't go far. And it's starting to turn into multiple problems. And I understand that too. But that doesn't mean we just shut down and let it go away. We'll keep calling, we'll keep writing letters, we'll keep showing up. We'll do what we have to do till we get the problem fixed. I can't promise you it's going to be fixed by tomorrow, but I can promise you I'm not going to stop until it is fixed. I wish I could do it on a more timely basis for you. I really do. I hope you believe me. What else do we have? There's item 5C tonight, which I want to do some research on. It's for an application for a grant for the Scranton Police Department for anti-terrorism. It's going to fall under the umbrella of anti-terrorism. It's a $45,000 grant, which is going to be spread out 3 years with a company that it comes up with a software to help fight. It's kind of it's like a tactical software program that the military uses. I had the pleasure of talking to Sergeant Carroll today about it. He's the front runner on this grant. And basically what it is we'll use the St. Patrick's Day Parade. This software could grid the parade and account for every police officer on that parade route. So the CO or anybody who has basically a cell phone who has this app, they know where every police officer is and they know who's the closest one to an issue, if there is an issue, and it's going to make just manpowering a certain situation that much easier. Sergeant Carroll explained to me, and it also works with other municipalities who are on the same program, whether it's Carbondale or Taylor, Music, whoever has this. Even dispatch can be aware where the police officers are. If there was, God forbid, an active shooter in a local school somewhere. Not everybody knows where the chemistry lab is. Not everybody knows where all these. This software will drop the blueprint right onto the map, and that way the dispatcher, the responding officers, and officers en route know exactly where everybody is. And that's kind of the triangulation point for this. And he said he was kind of telling me, Tim, stop by because I could talk about this for a half hour. There's a lot of applications. Well, that was just kind of to sum it up. And the first year is $15,000, which the city would front. The next 3 years would be $45,000, which the grant would pay for. At any time, if we're not happy with the software or where this is going, we could opt out. Then we could reallocate the remaining grant money to some other anti-terrorist funds that we see fit. What else do we have today? All right, so one of the biggest issues right now we have, which is tomorrow at 4 p.m. In the governor's room, is where we're going to find out the ultimate review of the modeling process that's been going on by the administration on where they find is the best resources for the funds for the sewer authority. Now, I can't encourage enough people to show up to that meeting. Now, originally the meeting was going to be a one-off or a two-off with the councilman, which personally I was not satisfied with. That was something that I just did not want. I want it presented from the administration to the council all at once so we can ask questions. I feel we work much better as a body than we do individually. something I might say might spur Mr. Gahan, or Mr. Evans might say something that Mr. Wexler will say. I believe we should be together. Now, with that being said, we're going to be in the governor's room. Is it going to be in chambers? It's not going to be, but it is going to be public meeting. The newspaper will be there, Mr. Lockwood will be there. I do expect and hope that as many people as possible come tomorrow at 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock on a Friday is a tricky time. I know I had to make a special request from my boss to leave work early, but it's important enough that, you know, I'm going to be there, and I hope as many people possible that can be there. Is it the best time? It's not. I'll admit that, but I am happy that it's going to be in public. I am happy that everybody who wants to go can go, and I'm happy that we're all going to be together instead of this one-off, which I don't think anybody was in favor of. Finally, before I give up my time here, I just want to say that Saturday is the parade day. I want to make sure that everybody's out, have a good time, dress warm, stay out of trouble, but enjoy your heritage. If you're not Irish, pretend you're Irish, and just have a good time. It's one of the better days that we have in our city. So please enjoy yourselves, and thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rogan?
Yes, a couple different items. First, I'd like to echo what Mr. Perry mentioned about the parade. As an Irish Catholic growing up in Scranton, I think everyone's favorite day was parade day. I would just like to ask that everyone celebrates responsibly. As Mr. Perry mentioned earlier, Colts is offering free bus rides, and I believe some of the cab companies do offer free rides on parade day as well. So please enjoy responsibly and don't drink and drive. Some good news. The West Scranton Intermediate School, once again, won a national C-SPAN student competition. This year, they were the first place finisher. This year's theme was on gun violence, and I'd like to congratulate them on their first place finish. And I would like to also thank them that with that first place finish, they were awarded a $3,000 prize, and they donated half of that $3,000 prize to charity. So I'd like to congratulate the West Scranton Intermediate School, and I was able to attend ceremonies they had in past years regarding the same program, the same competition, and the intermediate school really has a track record of success in this national competition, and it really speaks to the great work that our teachers and our students at the intermediate school are doing. Earlier in the week, I attended a forum at the Jewish Community Center regarding safety, particularly within the Jewish community. Nationally, there have been attacks and there have been threats made against Jewish community centers throughout the United States. I believe as close as Philadelphia, there was vandalism at a Jewish cemetery. And it was good to see our law enforcement community come together, city leaders, county leaders, to reassure the folks in our Jewish community that the city has protections in place, and there are a number of items that the city is doing and will be doing to keep them safe. So it was a very good forum. The mayor was in attendance, as well as Chief Graziano from the city, and the county Sheriff Mark McAndrew was there, and representatives from the Federal Department of Homeland Security and the state police. So it was a very well-attended meeting, and I think everyone left there feeling a little bit better about their safety. Also this week, a number of us attended a special meeting on parking in the Hill section. I know some of my colleagues will comment on that a little bit further. I will say it was a very frustrating meeting I believe for all of us, that it's something that's been going on for a long time, and there's very few answers. We're hoping that there could be some progress, but like many of the things that council does, and Mr. Perry kind of mentioned this regarding the flooding in West Scranton, Mr. Cerebro's neighborhood, the most frustrating part of being a council member is we cannot physically go out and do things sometimes. We can't physically go out and hang the handicap sign or, fix the pothole. And believe me, a lot of times it would be easier if we could. One of the biggest parts of our job is citizens' requests. And the vast majority of citizens' requests that I receive, you never hear about. Get a message on Facebook, get an email. send it to our city clerk, who does a great job relaying those to department heads, sometimes call the department head directly or an employee directly. And I have to say, for the vast majority of citizens' requests that I receive, they're handled in a timely manner. On the other hand, there are some that are extremely frustrating. I helped a resident on Washburn Street get a handicap sign that was waiting 6 months. That's completely not acceptable. And again, the frustration on our part is the same as what you're feeling, that you know what needs to be done. Unfortunately, we can't go out and fill potholes, and we can't go out and hang up handicap signs or go out and dig a trench to fix a stormwater problem. I wish we could. It would be much easier for us, but you know, we are helping. We are doing everything we can, particularly with your issue, Mr. Cerebro. And just because we didn't watch, personally didn't get a chance to watch the video, I was in your neighborhood just last week, and I did see, you have a sign up on your tree. I was checking out the area. Okay, it was there a week ago. But I was out there. I was out there looking at everything that was going on in the lay of the land, and we need to get all these issues resolved. So you're definitely not forgotten about, but we understand your frustration, and we feel it as well with citizens' requests a lot of times when we're trying to get things done. Finally, the last thing I want to mention, this week actually, I, at a social function, ran into the mother of Officer John Wilding. And we had a conversation about John and about the city. And I just want to mention that she did give me this bracelet that I promised her I would wear tonight. And I did want to just mention that I know we're coming up on 1.5 years, 2 years since the tragic passing of Officer Wilding. But I think we forget to say this enough during the course of the year when something tragic doesn't happen, is to thank our police officers for the work that they're doing, and particularly those that lost their life serving to protect the citizens of Scranton. That is all for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rogan. Mr. Evans?
Thank you. Last week, Marie asked a question about have there been any new permits issued for the new tax abatement program, and the answer is sadly no. But we're monitoring that. Clearly, there's a disconnect between the ordinance and getting the information out to the public. So I still believe we have a valuable ordinance, a valuable marketing tool, but if no one knows about it, then really what's the point? So to recap the ordinance, any new construction in the city, in addition, a new home, a new garage, a new commercial building, or an addition, a conversion from apartments to condominiums, would qualify for a 3-year tax abatement program for the program on the assessed improvement value and its corresponding tax. The school district, the city, and the county are participating in the abatement. So I'm going to request administration to see if they can do something on a marketing approach to get some of these ideas that we've put forth out there in the public so we can get some activity and get some growth in the city. On the meeting tomorrow in the governor's room, I certainly would have preferred to have the meeting. I think we all would have preferred to have the meeting in council chambers, but our invited guests have indicated they prefer the governor's room. So the topic is just too important to cancel or not have at all. As an old Rolling Stones song says, you can't always get what you want, but sometimes you just get what you need. So hopefully we're going to get what we need tomorrow night. On pension reforms, following up on my comments last week, I would like to offer a basic outline of some of the reforms I would like to see relative to the pensions and some other comments about pension reform itself. Clearly, the number one thing that has to be done is the hiring and implementation of an independent third-party administrator who will have specific duties relative to disability pensions. This has to be in place prior to any infusion of funds into the pension plan. I also think it's imperative to reduce the current rate of return. It's currently at a rate of 8%, which is too high and certainly not sustainable. When we don't reach that number, it has a negative impact on the MMO. Conversely, if we lower the rate of return to, say, 7.5%, and we exceed our expectations, we can actually lower the MMO with the excess proceeds beyond the rate of return. To take it further, I would like to see any excess proceeds, or some of the excess proceeds, received beyond the rate of return to be used to further buy down that rate until we reach an even more realistic rate of return assumption. This is something that the Auditor General was adamant about in his report about Scranton's pensions. One of his recommendations was to call for, and I quote, the use of honest estimates of investment returns. But for the city to get even a 0.25% reduction, it would take almost $4.5 million to buy that reduction. But I think it's money well spent, because the effects of this will be positive for decades. We can't continue to have a short-term view on everything that we do. We need to begin to look at our decisions with a view towards the long-term impact it has for our city and our taxpayers. Another reform that I would like to see would be the clarification of COLA funding only after the plan reaches the 50% level. Currently, the language is not absolutely clear and does not even define a percentage level. While this may require legislation or it may require an MOU with the unions, this is something the courts have viewed in our favor in the past, and I think it's something that we all can agree that can happen relatively easily. The current rules that govern the pension boards are, quite frankly, all over the place and disjointed at best. I feel a comprehensive ordinance that codifies all of the rules of the pension funds should be developed and passed as a single new ordinance. This is something that we can discuss with Attorney Durkin when he comes to visit us at our caucus next week. I would also like to see some changes in the makeup of the pension boards. My goal, at the very least, would be to add another board member to each pension board who would be a citizen representative, someone who is clearly independent of the board and the pensions and who has a background in finance and/or accounting. In addition, or as another alternative, I would suggest creating an independent board of investment experts that can be used as a resource for the existing pension boards. Once reforms are made, I would further recommend that the funds from the proceeds of the SSA sale that are dedicated to the pensions to be placed in a trust and managed outside of the current pension board structure. There may be additional reforms to be discussed as well, and some from my colleagues, and hopefully even some from the administration. And I may even offer additional proposals as times move on, or as the coming weeks approach. But we also have to keep in mind that because there has not been municipal reform done at the state level, some of what I've discussed may have current oversight by state statute and may not even be allowed. So we're going to find out. We're going to ask Attorney Durkin and we'll ask Attorney Menorah when he returns to see if we can reconcile those reforms with some of the state laws that govern the pensions. To that point, clearly there's been a lack of vision or commitment on the state level in dealing with municipal pension reform. For example, in California, specifically San Diego, state statutes allowed for a complete restructuring of San Diego's pension board so that a majority of pension board members are in fact independent members with financial and investment expertise, as opposed to union and city representatives who have inherent conflicts of interest when determining pension benefits. In Rhode Island, state law dictates that COLA adjustments were suspended for pensions systems that were funded less than 80%. Our state law doesn't even define a number. In Michigan, as far back as 1997, all new hires with the state were automatically enrolled in a defined contribution or 401k style plan in which the state contributes 4% to each employee's salary. That was nearly 20 years ago. And when I bring up a 401k style plan for new hires at the state and local level, it seems like it sends shivers down the spines of the backs of every bureaucrat I talk to. We are shortchanging new hires and future employees by not offering this option, as well as our taxpayers. As an example of how employees may feel about the difference between a defined benefit plan and a defined contribution plan, again, the 401k type plan, when you have a choice, you only need to look at the state of New York. Nearly 100 years ago, the State University of New York has adopted a pension system that allows workers to choose a traditional defined benefit plan or to choose a defined contribution plan or a 401k. In 2010, 71% of all university employees were in the 401k plan. At the end of the day, we need to move forward toward a pension management system that should be apolitical, transparent, and performance-driven. While this may be a work in progress, I would remind all current pension board members that they have a fiduciary duty to preserve the plan's long-term sustainability and to make decisions about pension reform that reflect that duty now and in the future. We are all in this together, and we all want a healthy, sustainable pension plan for all current and future retirees, while balancing our obligations to our taxpayers as a primary consideration. It would be irresponsible of us as elected officials to infuse the pensions with cash without reasonable and long-lasting reforms. And that's all I have on that tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Mr. Gahan?
Yes, thank you. Just got quite a few items tonight. First of all, I'd like to thank the students from Scranton Prep for coming to our meeting, especially Logan Munley. Where's Logan? Logan here tonight? No, I think he is. Very popular guy. We knew he was coming. So I want to thank Logan and all the students from Scranton Prep for being here tonight. Second thing, I want to thank our staff, especially our city clerk, Lori Reed, Kathy Carrera, Jamie Marciano, for all of their help in finally getting our Granicus project up and running, as Mrs. Schumacher and Mrs. Hodowanitz pointed out. It's a totally different system, and it took a lot of work to get it up and running, as you well know. So Mrs. Reed really ran with the project, and if it wasn't for her hard work, none of this would have happened. So I want to thank her especially for all the work that she put into it. I also want to thank the IT department, Frank Switnicki and Larry Abali for all of their help and their hard work in getting this project up and running. And I also want to thank the business administrator, Dave Bolzoni. About 2 years ago when I came to him with this project, we knew it was going to be a lot of work to get it off of the ground. He stuck with it, and I really appreciate that. And I also want to thank my colleagues for being a part of this. Just to remind everybody, what this project is. It's called Granicus, and Granicus is a website platform. So everything that we have in front of us in this packet, you used to have to come down to City Hall, like Mrs. Schumacher, Mrs. Hodowanitz, anybody who wanted a copy of a piece of legislation, and you had to pay 25 cents a page for a copy. Now, this is just one example of what the packet looks like. We've had packets with hundreds of more pages, a lot of paper. Now, all of this is on our website. So you can go on to scrantonpa.gov and you can see everything that we see. So we've made our office way more transparent, way more efficient. We're going to save roughly $30,000 a year with this program. From an environmental perspective, we're going to save anywhere from 3 to 5 trees a year. And it's going to make us, as I said, much more transparent and much more efficient. So I want to thank everybody once again for being a part of that project. I'm so glad that it's finally up and running. As to Mr. Cerebro's issue in Kaiser Valley, I share everybody's frustrations with this issue. I would ask that we send a letter to the city engineer, to our DPW director, and find out what has been done, what they are planning on doing, and what a timeline looks like. And I would like that in writing so that we could find out exactly what the plan is, because I hate to see people get jerked around continually. Another couple of citizen requests, the 2200 block of Winfield Avenue in South Scranton. There's a lot of issues with abandoned vehicles and vehicles in people's yards, so we have sent something to the Licensing and Inspections Department and the Police Department. I'd also like to ask my colleagues if they would agree to send a letter to the administration asking that they consider paving the 500 block of Campbell Street up to the 600 block of South Webster Avenue. A resident sent me photographs today. They have no curbs, no storm drains, and major issues with that street literally falling apart. The potholes are extremely large, and something has to be done up in that area of Southside. Also, a letter was sent, Mrs. Robinson was here last week, about conditions found at the 800 block of Hampton Street. The empty lot is overgrown with high grass, and there's a major snake problem. I was trying to help her in the summer, but obviously that didn't work out, so we did send a letter again to the Licensing and Inspections Department Monday, March 6th, so hopefully that gets taken care of. A woman who has been, and I can't remember her name, but she's been coming to the meetings once in a while. She's from the Hill section. She was kind enough to compile a list of street signs in the Hill section which are faded and or missing. So I'm going to forward that along to the DPW. It's quite an extensive list. I know she's not finished with it yet. But we need somebody from the city who is going to take on that task. I think we need a comprehensive program to go neighborhood to neighborhood, because from what I've seen, this is a major public safety issue, especially in the Hill section. I get complaints about it every week. South side, west side, there are street signs that are faded, missing, stop signs the same way. So I really think we should develop some sort of program within the DPW to deal with this issue, at least so we have some sort of inventory. Regarding the special meeting that we attended at the Hill neighborhood meeting, there's obviously major issues on Prescott Avenue regarding the Hindu church, parking issues, more so loud music coming from the church, trash, among a number of different things. And I believe that something has to give up there, because people are obviously not happy who have lived there their entire lives. So I would ask that we would send a letter to the administration asking that they enforce the laws, that they send the fire inspector up to the church to make sure there are no fire hazards up there. There were several residents who complained that they may be violating the fire code. So I'd like that to be looked into. Also, there were several concerns about a bell tower on top of the church with pigeon feces that is apparently in the process of being taken down. I would like a copy of all permits that have been pulled for that project, and I would like to see if any environmental remediation has been done on that bell tower. Again, another pretty serious topic that residents were concerned about. We've repeatedly here on council talked about the condemnation ordinance and the fact that we need to review it and we need to change it. And we did get a very interesting proposal from the director of the Lackawanna County Tax Claim Bureau. And I'd just like to read some of what he said, and then I'd like our solicitor to take a look at this so we can possibly form legislation. He goes on to say in his email to council that we have had success selling property in the city of Scranton. However, I am getting less activity on condemned city dwellings because of what I believe is a legislative glitch in the city condemned property ordinance. Let me say, I believe your ordinance is fine to hold landlords who have let their properties become blighted and in non-compliance with the city codes accountable for their actions by making them post a bond prior to securing a building permit. Where I take exception to this is when a new owner from the county judicial sale is held to the same standard. These owners were not the ones that put the property in condemnation. These people are the ones trying to get it out of condemnation, repair it to code, sold or leased, and back on the tax roll, and blight eliminated. Therefore, I am requesting that City Council consider amending the current legislation to simply add a section that speaks to the new owner being given a 6-month grace period before they would have to post a bond. The new owner would be issued the building permit and would have 6 months to substantially finish renovations. If that happens, then no bond would be necessary. If not, the city would reserve the right to impose the bond after the 6-month grace period. As you are aware, most bonds must be collateralized, usually dollar for dollar. So I think that we should take a serious look at this, and I would like to ask, Attorney Menorah is not here tonight, but next week if we could ask him to take a look at this and then get together with the city administration and work on reforming that ordinance. I'd also like to ask, in fifth order tonight, we have a piece of legislation where we're going to renew a contract with Joyce Hatala, who was our recycling coordinator. We discussed this in caucus. I would like, before we take a final vote on that, to ask Mrs. Hatala and Mr. Lynch, who is the recycling coordinator, to come into a public caucus, and update us on the recycling program, what progress has been made before we take a vote on retention for another 18 months. As for the Young issue, the hole on Wyoming Avenue, I wasn't here last week to speak about this. I'd just like to touch on it briefly. I was very disturbed by the article in the paper regarding this issue that has consumed the Young's backyard. In my opinion, the mayor, again, has failed the Youngs and the residents of this city by his blatant careless attitude on this issue. And, you know, two of the quotes that I almost fell off of my chair, we're not sure if this is the city's problem, and it would be a vast strain on city's resources. Yet when I look at some of the things that the city's doing, you know, we seem to have no problem paying attorneys' fees, taking care of the mayor's friends, political contributors. We could have taken care of this problem a year ago. So it's pretty sad now that it's wrapped up in the court. So I continue to be disappointed on that. I did receive a response from the executive director of the Sewer Authority, Attorney Shrive. He did let me know that he's compiling the documents that I requested. I requested a copy of all invoices for legal work that was done. I also have an additional request. I'd like to know what services were rendered for a bill from the law firm that is related to Henry Amoroso, who is the city's financial advisor, dated January 23rd, 2017, in the amount of $39,000. I'd like to see a copy of this invoice as soon as possible. And I want to reiterate, as one speaker came up, how outrageous I think this whole thing is again. It seems to me like this sale has been a piggy bank for the attorneys and Mayor Courtwright's political contributors and his friends. Where are the invoices? Where are the hourly rates? Where are the fee agreements? The public has the right to see this information. Also, in looking over the parking authority, lawyers' fees, Ned Abrahamson of Abrahamson, Conaboy, and Abrahamson received $200,000 like he did for the sewer deal. I'd like to see an invoice on that. So what was the hourly rate? What work was done for that fee? Because it seems pretty high to me. And lastly, we were informed by Councilman Wexler that there will be a meeting tomorrow between City Council and the administration, Friday, March 10th at 4 p.m., to discuss the allocation of the sewer sale proceeds. This meeting will take place in the room next door, the governor's room, rather than in council chambers. I requested that this meeting take place at that table in council chambers with the television cameras on. But apparently Mayor Courtwright and the administration refused. I also find it coincidental that this meeting, which is very important, is taking place on a Friday at 4 p.m. I am asking my colleagues to demand that this meeting be held in council chambers and be televised for the public. I just heard my colleagues say that they would prefer that it be held here. Well, it should be here. Why are we having it in the governor's room? Why are we having it where it is hard for the public to hear what goes on? It's hard for councilmen to hear what's going on because the heat that goes on in that room, we were at a meeting there 2 months ago. It's very difficult to hear. So why would they refuse to have it in council chambers? I just find this whole thing outrageous. You know, this isn't an issue about a street sweeper or a pothole. This issue is about spending tens of millions of taxpayer and ratepayer money. It's extremely significant. So significant that it should not be held in the governor's room where there are no cameras and where it's extremely difficult for anybody to hear what is going on and to hear the conversations that are taking place. I don't understand why Mayor Courtwright and his administration is afraid to meet with us in council chambers. I truly do not understand it. He was a councilman for 6 years. In fact, I think he sat here or in this seat. Does he not understand that the public would like to be included on one of the most important issues the city faces, and not everybody can make it down to the governor's room on a Friday at 4 p.m.? So again, I am disappointed and disturbed that the mayor of this city continues to play hide and seek with city council and the public on this issue and a number of other issues, and the lack of accountability and leadership is frightening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Goyen. Just a comment, the issue in regards to the condemnation bonds, I started that process 2 weeks ago. We submitted a letter to the city solicitor to start looking into that. So I agree with your idea, and I believe that we should support that because I think that is a major detriment to the condemnations in the city. In regards to the meeting tomorrow evening, we did request that the meeting be held in city council chambers and televised. Unfortunately, we don't have the ability to demand the mayor to do anything. We can suggest, we can ask, we can cajole, we can do whatever possible ways we can do it, and I did try. But last week, consulting with my colleagues, Mr. Garn was absent last week, we did discuss the meeting, and once again, in my regards, it's the same thing we talked about before. We have to get the information. This is when all the players are available. This is just a work session. This is just an initial description by the administration of what they're going to propose. It's not set in stone yet, and I would really like to focus. I'd really like to focus on the details of the plan instead of how the plan is being presented. The meeting is open to the public. I believe it will be covered by the Times. I'm assuming that perhaps other local media will be here as well. I wanted to have this meeting prior to Attorney Durkin coming to our session next week. And this was just the most, even though it is a Friday afternoon, it was the most readily available for all of the players to be there. So I just wanted to get this information out as soon as possible, and this is the opportunity that presented it the best. This evening, it's probably surprising that sometimes I disagree with our speakers. The one thing I did disagree with tonight was about the comments about PennDOT. I have worked with PennDOT on several different projects, large projects, and I have found the engineers to be very professional. I have found the engineers to be very courteous to residents who have been affected by different projects within the neighborhoods. And I totally disagree with the fact that PennDOTs are engineers that can't find work anywhere else. I would like to compliment the PennDOT engineers. Ms. Schumacher, you know how hard they worked on our East Mountain Road project. They're working very hard on Harrison Avenue Bridge project. They've managed to get the Rockwell Avenue Bridge project nearly completion with all the problems with that, and I do not think they deserve that criticism. Last evening, I attended the 85th anniversary of the UGL company. I'd like to congratulate them on their success over 85 years. They've been managed to stay in the Scranton area and provide family-sustaining jobs to their employees. They have a great local flavor to their management company, and I would like to congratulate them on their success. Just touching base, following up on the meeting that we had on Prescott Avenue, this is a very delicate situation. There's a conflict between a church and residents. The church is growing perhaps faster than it can control. We do have to find a way to protect the interest of the property owners, and we do have to find a way to not tread on religion in the area. Very difficult situation. I'd like to thank councilmen that were there last night just to get some information and try to get started. So where we're at with this, as Councilman Gahan said, we are going to contact the city officials to see what can be done in terms of licensing inspection. Chief Graziano was there. I think Chief DeSarno was supposed to be there but got called on something else. And just so we can make sure that the building is up to code, that it's serving the purpose that it's designed for without impacting the neighbors. We are going to talk to, there is some leadership at the church in addition to the pastor there. There is a committee, and that person isn't local, so we are going to contact that person to see what we can do to come to some sense of cooperation in the neighborhood there, and that's the main goal. And hopefully we can get something worked out. That's all I have today.
I apologize. I had one thank you, and I know I'll get yelled at if I forget it. I'd like to give a big shout out to Chris Kays and Tom Pattison from the Southside Neighborhood Watch. There was a number of buildings that were covered with graffiti over the course of the week, and they acted quickly and were out and covered it up. And I was actually on the phone with Tom while he was covering up that graffiti. So I just wanted to give them a thank you, and I apologize for forgetting to mention it under my motions. Thank you.
5B, for introduction and ordinance authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute a deed of easement and right-of-way granting to the Pennsylvania American Water Company the easement, right-of-way, and rights as are set forth below with respect to the property which deed of easement and right-of-way shall be in the form as attached hereto as Exhibit 1.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5B be introduced to its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, so moved.
5C for introduction, a resolution ratifying and approving the submission of a grant application by the City of Scranton Police Department for funding through the Department of Homeland Security Program in the amount of $45,000, and, if successful, accept and disperse the grant funds to enable the Scranton Police Department to prepare for and respond to complex coordinated terrorist attacks.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5C be introduced to its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, so moved.
5D for introduction, a resolution authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials for the City of Scranton to enter into a loan-to-grant agreement and make a loan grant from the City of Scranton Business and Industry Loan Grant Program for project number as noted in an amount not to exceed $40,000 to Another Time Restaurant LLC, doing business as AV Restaurant, to assist an eligible project.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5D be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, so moved.
5E for introduction, a resolution authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to apply for and execute a grant for the Redevelopment Assistance Capital Program through the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania's Office of the Budget in the amount of $3 million, accepting and dispersing the grant if the application is successful, and coordinate the use of the grant funds with Lackawanna College located at 501 Vine Street, Scranton, Pennsylvania 18509, for the project to be named Commons at 409, located at 409 Adams Avenue, Scranton, Pennsylvania 18510.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5E be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? Just for public information, my wife is an employee of Lackawanna College. At this time, I don't think it's a conflict for me to vote on this, but just for public information. All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, so moved.
5F for introduction, a resolution authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and enter into a renewal of the contract with Joyce Hatala Associates to assist the city of Scranton with its recycling program for an additional 18-month period with the option of an 18-month extension.
At this time, we'll entertain a motion that item 5F be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question?
Yes, just again on the question, we're going to introduce this, and then next week, since we have Mr. Durkin coming in for a caucus, we'll table this next week and request then that the week after Mrs. Hatala and Mr. Lynch come in for a public caucus to give us an update on progress made with the recycling initiatives. Thank you.
All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, so moved.
Sixth order, 6A, no business at this time. Seventh order, 7A, for consideration by the Committee on Public Safety for adoption, file of the Council number 91, 2017, an ordinance authorizing the installation of two-hour parking-only restrictions, Monday through Friday, on the 500 block of Clay Avenue, directly in front of the Beth Shalom congregation.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Public Safety?
As chairperson for the Committee on Public Safety, I recommend final passage of item 7A.
Second.
On the question?
Yes, on the question, I spoke to some of the members of the congregation, and they were very pleased. They wanted to give a thank you to the council and to the mayor for their help with this issue.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Rogan?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Gahn?
Yes.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7A legally and lawfully adopted. If there's no further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
This meeting is adjourned.